We're continuing our lesson on page 90 with example 1. But before we continue, I do want to let you know that starting today, you can use a calculator. And I linked a Desmos calculator in Google Classroom for you to use. There's no need to use one of mine. Use that one in Google Classroom. Now, example 1, find unit rate. Before we get started, I do want you to know that in a unit rate, the denominator is always 1. So unit rates look like fractions, but the bottom number is going to be 1. The denominator is always 1. Okay, moving on, let's look at our example. Nathan and Dan were both hired as lifeguards for the summer. They received their paychecks for the first week. Who earns more per hour? So let's look at their paychecks. So we see that Dan worked for 9 hours and made $78.75. Nathan only worked 5 hours but made $46.25. So we're going to compare those two paychecks to see who earns more per hour. So let's start with Dan. So Dan earned $78.75 and he worked for 9 hours. So I just wrote this like a fraction. And I'm going to find the unit rate, meaning I'm going to find how much he made if he worked for 1 hour. So now my question is, how do I go from 9 to 1? Well, I would be dividing by 9. So I'm going to do the same thing on the top. So I'm going to divide 78.75 by 9. And again, you can use a calculator. And if you put that into your calculator, you're going to get 8.75. So what does that mean? That means that Dan earns $8.75 per hour. Now let's compare that to Nathan. Okay, so Nathan earned $46.25 when he worked for 5 hours. So we're going to find out how much he earned for working just 1 hour. So again, we're going to ask ourselves, how do I go from 5 to 1? Well, I would divide by 5. And if I do that on the bottom, I have to do the same thing on the top. So 46.25 divided by 5, you can put that in your calculator and you're going to get 9.25. So what does that mean? That means that Nathan earns $9.25 per hour. So the question is, who earns more per hour? Well, Nathan. To answer our question, Nathan earns more per hour, and he earns 50 cents more per hour. Let's look at the try it. Jennifer is a lifeguard at the same pool. She earns $137.25 for 15 hours of lifeguarding. How much does Jennifer earn per hour? So the information that's highlighted, we're going to use to make a fraction. So $137.25 for 15 hours of work. I want to know how much she would earn in just 1 hour. So how do I go from 15 to 1? Well, I divide by 15, right? So I'm going to do the same thing on the top. And I'm going to divide 137.25 by 15. And when I do that, I get 9.15. So what does that mean? Well, that means that she earns $9.15 per hour. So we'll fill that in right here. She earns $9.15 per hour. We're going to skip the convince me